Sometimes music scenes get a little too incestuous. Someone replaces someone else in a band, and feelings get hurt, and people say, "This is bullshit," or "I am this band. This band is nothing without me," or "Emma, stop maxing out your amp," blah, 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 blah. But other times, interchange between bands produces something golden, as is the case with today's album. Welcome to Daily Metal, where every day a different metal album gets dissected for your sadistic listening pleasure. I'm the heavy metal lawyer, Emma. And in this show, I'll talk about why the music in these albums is so good and where they fall in the history of music's most wretched genre. On July 29th, 1997, with a little help from a friend, Extreme Noise Terror put out the classic grindcore album Damage 381, referring to the beats per minute in the title track. ENT, crust punk darlings of fame, producer John Peel, are often credited with being one of the founders of grindcore as well as crust punk, bringing punk sensibilities and politics to the blast beat-filled genre. Like fellow grindcore founders Napalm Death and Carcass, ENT came from England and were an important part of that early grindcore scene revolving around the legendary Earache Records. And after 10 years of doing their thing, the founding grindcore bands were starting to get restless. It was the 90s after all. Everyone was into restructuring, whether it was corporate mergers or noisy death metal. While everything I'm going to say should be taken with a grain of salt because this is a whole lot of messy drama, the one thing that is clear is that this story starts with Napalm Death rather than ENT, and specifically starts with their album Diatribes. Diatribes, in my opinion, is unequivocally Napalm Death's worst album. Not even close, it is the worst. The band botches it trying to adapt to the times and be something they're not, with awful contrived groove metal. They sounded like a bad ripoff of Pantera, which is not something you want to sound like. Discharge had Grave New World, Bad Religion had the hilarious Into the Unknown, and Napalm Death has Diatribes. Even the greatest bands can put out really terrible albums going into a new direction that just does not work for them. And at the risk of sounding like I am picking sides, because I think there was clearly a lot going on here beyond just the style of the band, legendary singer Mark Barney Greenway had had enough and said the band was losing what made it special. So Napalm Death responded by kicking him out. In what has to be one of the most retrospectively insane band member bootings in metal history, since Greenway's vocals defined the sound of Napalm Death even more than grindcore itself. And in an even odder move, the band decided the person to help them move in a new direction was none other than Phil Vane of Extreme Noise Terror. So Vane goes to Napalm Death, and ENT says, "Fuck it. Barney, want to come record with us?" So some of the vocals you'll hear on Damage 381 are from the famed Napalm Death vocalists, rather than ENT's traditional dual vocals of Phil Vane and Dean Jones. And it works. It really works. Barney is clearly one of the most gifted metal vocalists, and he was able to graft his trademark guttural growl onto the noisier and more chaotic grindcore of ENT, particularly in the tracks Utopia Burns, Damage 381, and Crawl. Musically, Damage 381 was the most metal of ENT's albums, with songs like Crawl incorporating thrash and death metal sounds while retaining the crusty wretchedness that makes ENT so recognizable. And the drama does have a happy ending. While Barney was great in ENT, the same was apparently not true of Phil Vane and Napalm Death, and the band soon told Phil it wasn't working and they kissed and made up with Barney and returned to their death grind sound with albums like Words from the Exit Wound and Enemy of the Music Business, the latter of which involves a whole other drama, which we'll have to save for another time. Napalm Death. Those queens just love the drama. Phil returned to Extreme Noise Terror and even provided some vocals on Damage 381, making it a grindcore album with 3 of the genre's most legendary vocalists. So, do you think Barney kills it in ENT, or is his trademark voice no replacement for the call and response between Phil and Dean? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, please subscribe so you can find out what the metal album of the day is, why it is so brutal, and where it fits in the history of the genre.